Welcome to Lighting for Profits.
All light.
Powered by Emery Allen.
Get rid of your excuses.
Your number one source for all things landscape lighting.
That's where the magic can happen. You can really scale a business.
We really had to show up for each other.
From lighting design, install, sales, and marketing.
You're a scaredy cat salesman, Kurt.
We discuss everything you need to know to start and grow a successful landscape lighting business.
What do you think a hippo has to do with your business, Ryan?
Usually it's some weird childhood thing. Some bully kicked your butt.
I think the key factor here is trust.
Here is your host, Ryan Lee.
All light. What is happening? Welcome to the number one landscape lighting show in Arizona. That's what we're going with today. Our guest is from Arizona, I think. Forgot to double check. We're the number one show somewhere. Guys, I'm really excited for today's show. We got an awesome one lined up. It's America's favorite, sometimes Canada's favorite landscape lighting show. I'm Ryan Lee, your host, and coming to you live from Lehi, Utah, the Landscape Lighting Secrets Studios. So it's going to be a great show. We are here to educate, motivate, to help you dominate wherever you're at. So if you're looking to start or grow a landscape lighting business, heck, I've met people that are in completely different industries, and they're like, dude, I love your show. I'm like, really? You don't do any lighting? Like, no, but it's totally helped me out. I'm a better person. I'm better at sales. I'm better at leadership. All these things. I'm like, holy cow, that's freaking awesome. So, but specifically, we are talking lighting, especially today. It's going to be one of the more nerdy shows. So we're going to see if it gets voted the nerdiest show of all time on Lighting for Profits. I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because we have an engineer coming on. So we're gonna tech out, we're gonna geek out, we're gonna nerd out. We got Mr. Dan Utley with Letzgo Products coming on. And just to make sure he feels at home, because he is an engineer, we're gonna make the gift card giveaway, which we are doing a gift card giveaway today, guys. We're gonna make it super nerdy. It's very geeked out questions. So if you feel like you're more of on the geek spectrum, this is your chance to win the gift card giveaway. So stick around for that. We're going to hook you up in a little bit. But I'm excited to have Dan on. They've got some really cool new innovative products specifically for the landscape lighting industry. So what's up? What's wrong with engineers? Nothing. I mean, it's just a nerdy show. It's going to be amazing because I feel like 50% of the people in landscape lighting are geeks and nerds, right? I mean, that's why we love this stuff. So no, this show is going to be epic. So guys, I want to remind you, if you've gotten any value out of the show, go hook us up, give me a 5-star review. It's not easy, so if you do it, I really appreciate you. We got people going on and giving us reviews now. So I realized that it was because I started asking. So remind you in your business, ask for those reviews and you shall receive. People will hook you up. So I'm asking you to give me a review on Apple or Spotify. I think those are the two that you can do it. So before we get started, too, just a couple reminders. September 12th and 13th, I'll be down in Tampa at the Garden Light LED Dealer Congress. I'll be down there teaching for a couple days. They're going to do a factory tour. We're going to some like gardens to do the training. Brandon Miles will be there. He helps me with landscape lighting live trainings. Jan Moyer is going to be there. There's not a lot of opportunities to work directly with her, so this is one of those. So if you can make it, just go to gardenlightled.com and get your ticket or reach out to them. It's not my event. I'm just helping out with it. So if you have any questions, just go get with them. I put a link in the comments as well. And then just as a reminder too, September 20th and 21st is our first annual Landscape Lighting Secrets members only event. It's the Landscape Lighting Secrets Summit. It's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, wow. We've got an awesome event planned. It's going to be killer. And so you have to be a member of Landscape Lighting Secrets. So if you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know, should I join? No, I won't join. I'll join in January because, I got Christmas lights coming up and I'm going to make excuses and yeah, blah, 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 blah. Just join now so you can come to Nashville next month and party with us. It's going to be a blast. So, all right. So again, you guys, in just a few minutes, we got Dan Utley with Letzgo Products coming on. Before we have him on, I got to, of course, give my shout out to Emery Allen. All right, let's be honest. Were you really happy with the way your last job turned out? Was it okay, or do you think it was missing something? If I could drop a suggestion, mix it up. Do some A/B testing for your next job and give Emery Allen a try. Everywhere I go now across the country, I'm asking people, what product do you use? More and more are using Emery Allen, so don't miss out. They're confident you and your customers will be really happy with the final product. They have the lowest VA, highest CRI, and a better experience. Okay, so that's what you're going to expect with Emery Allen. They offer so many choices in colors, wattages, beam spreads. Whatever installation scenario you've got, they've got a solution for you. So just email tomg@emeryallen.com and he will get your account set up. He's got the discounted contractor pricing. So again, don't just go to their website. Email tomg@emeryallen.com. Mention Lighting for Profits. Mention my name, Ryan Lee. He will hook you up with the best possible pricing and get your account set up. So don't just go buy online. Save some money. Use my name. Get the hookup. All right, guys. So thank you, Emery Allen. Appreciate you. Oh, there's Tom. Tom's on here now. What up? What up? Woo-hoo. Double light bulb. Light lamp. He says, what did Thomas Edison invent? Right. There's always going to be that debate. Are we in the lighting industry? Is it a bulb or a lamp? Comment what you guys think. What do you call it? Do you call it a bulb or a lamp, or do you call it a light lamp like I call it? All right. So again, we got Dan Utley coming on Letzgo Products. We're going to talk about some new products that they've got out, which are really, really cool and going to help you customize your lighting designs. Before we do, though, last week, I want to talk about something. Actually, I seriously almost forgot. Before I tell you about what I was going to tell you, I got this package in the mail, right? And it's a box. It's a package with some like flying candle sticker on it. But it says, to Ryan Lee from Greg Matthews, only to be opened live on Lighting for Profits. Get lit. Okay, so I don't know. I think Greg, I should have told him that I was going to do this because I think he wanted it. I think he wanted to be live. I'm not sure if he's on here or not. I should have told him. But we're going to open it up right now. I'm either going to cut myself and go to the emergency room right now, or we're going to see what's in this box. So what do you got any guesses? If you got any guesses, let me know in the comments. Again, the only clue I have is it's from Greg to be opened live. And there's a sticker of a box with a candle in it with wings on it. So here we go. This could be super embarrassing. I have no idea what's in here. So, no guesses? Maybe you're not guessing because you know what it is and you don't want to tell me. All right. So, how to open your gift box. Fully remove your gift box from the shipping box. Well, I just did that. Put the box on a flat surface. Keep clear of the top and take a step back. Push down the button and enjoy. Is this happening? There's actual instructions that say this, you guys. This is choking hazard. Don't need that. All right. These are probably the craziest instructions I've ever had. And I've got this right here. It says start here, pull sticker off this way, then hold down black button for 2 seconds. Well, I don't even know. I think I got my adrenaline going. If you guys are listening later on the podcast, you might want to come back and watch this on YouTube because I have no idea what's about to happen. There's the box. Oh my gosh. Hold down the black button for 2 seconds. Oh my gosh. Okay, that was this is crazy. If you missed it, money starts playing out of this box. And I mean, I'll show you what just happened. Look at all these $100 bills come flying out all over my desk, all over my floor. There's a ton of them. They're like one's literally on my screen. Look at this. It's like stuck to the screen. Oh my gosh. Look at all this mess. Okay. So I'm not sure what just happened. $100 bills everywhere. What do I do now? I got expensive mints. That is crazy. All right. I'm not sure what just happened, but that was a surprise of a lifetime. So I see what they did there, and then there's a cake in there. So I'll open up the cake later, but they got you. They get you. They get you the thing because you pull the thing off and then hit the button. Well, there's no button. There's a machine that's shooting up. I don't know how many bills, but money, money, money. Oh my gosh. Oh, I can't even see where all this stuff is on my desk. Where's my notes? Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. It's real cash or Monopoly. Well, there it is. I wish it was real cash. It'd probably be about $5,000 right here. All right. So that was cool. Thanks, Greg. I got a cake and a really, really cool surprise. So that just happened live on Lighting for Profits. I wonder if I should even talk about what I was going to talk about. I don't even think I can at this point. I thought I was just going to open up a thing and whatever, but I'm not going to talk about what I was going to talk about. I just want to thank Greg for the awesome gift, and it's freaking dope. Yeah, it's awesome. Now I was going to try to get this cake thing out of here, but when I pulled the top off, there's a cake right down in there, and I don't want to ruin it because there's mints and all this other stuff. Anyway, that was an epic gift. I'll give you that. So maybe it's just a gift for being awesome. I don't know. But let's move on with the show. Dan's backstage. Dan's in the green room going, what did I sign up for? Is this the right show? Guys, I'm going to take a picture right now. And so I'll post this later so people can see how nuts that just happened. Oh my goodness. All right. I don't even think that worked. All right. It's time, you guys. If you're ready and you're here live, let me know if you guys want to welcome our guest. I think it's time. I'm ready. I'm flustered. I just had a crazy experience with this gift box. It's time to get our guest on. So let's get Dan on here. You guys ready? What is up? What is up? Welcome, Mr. Dan Utley.
Thank you much. That's a hard act to follow.
I don't know what just happened.
That was good. I liked it.
I don't know what it looked like on camera because I was here, first person. But could you see the money like flying out of there?
Oh yeah, it was shooting out. Yeah,
that was good. It's like, okay, it has the instructions like open here, hit the black button for 2 seconds, but you never get to the black button. That was really good.
I would check all those bills. Maybe one of them's legit.
Oh yeah, I'm keeping these. I'm checking because some of them, yeah, one of them's got to be. Now they're plastered everywhere. That was great, and one's still stuck to my monitor. Well, I'm excited. I was going to share something. I was like, you know what? No, I'm not going to share that. We've got Dan. I didn't want you to leave and be like, wait, what show did I sign up for? So I thought before you leave, we'll keep the show going and turn it around. You good with that?
Yep. Appreciate the opportunity to be on your podcast.
Man, I'm really excited. I can't remember where it was. Ran into you at one of the shows or something like that.
AOLP. Yeah, a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Something like that. So hear great things about your company, your products. And it was kind of interesting because I didn't know some things about you until we read your bio and then kind of talking to you previously. And I kind of want to start there because, part of this show is, like helping people with sales and profitability, design, install, like, how to be a better person, all this stuff. But I think it all starts with like who we are fundamentally as people. And every one of us on this world has the ability to impact the lives of others. And I think your story's cool. So maybe if you want to just talk about yourself for a minute. I know it's interesting. I didn't know about you used to own an alarm company and home automation. How did you get your start in that?
Well, I was working at General Motors at the time as electrical engineer, and going to send our kids to a private school in the town we were in, and needed a little extra money. And I kind of accidentally got involved in it with a person who wanted their house in an alarm system, but a contractor I used to know, actually, a friend. And so it's one of those things just kind of stumbled into. I thought, oh man, I could do this and, pretty well pay my kids way through school.
Nice.
The extra income would be helpful, that sort of thing. And so that's kind of where the alarm company got started back in, I guess, late 80s, early 90s. And that was an interesting journey, and kept us. And that's a difficult time because I think Matt was just born, who works with me now, about the time we started that. So he was just a little guy. And so that was an interesting time, all hands on deck. You're busy, you're doing all the stuff with kids in school. And so I can really relate to the guys who are out there in the field doing stuff. I can't say you have it that hard, because attic and crawl space work is way worse than being outdoors, in my opinion. But and I got the knees to prove it now. But so that's a little bit of that backdrop of kind of where I cut my teeth in a service business, getting to know the customer and selling product, that sort of thing.
And that's crazy. So you were doing that, and that's one thing I didn't realize. You're working full time at GE, and you started this business on the side to just make some extra money.
Yeah, I was at General Motors, not GE, but yes, yeah, and so that's kind of how that happened. But I guess if I were going to talk to anyone in that age group, in your late 20s, early 30s, getting into landscape lighting, is that to be an entrepreneur, you really have to have kind of your ducks in a row, priority wise, because your spouse has to be on board. And the problem is you don't always know. Myself, I didn't know that. I'm just being transparent, because if you're going to do that, it takes a lot from both people, the husband, the wife, and it can take a toll on your family. And I had an electrician working for me. We actually got into wiring houses too. We were doing 5,000 square foot homes on Geist Reservoir in Indianapolis. I'm a Hoosier. That's where I got my roots. I'm in Arizona now. But and so we'd walk in on a weekend, and we'd pull every piece of wire in a home on one day. I'd walk in with a crew of 20 plus guys.
Oh, wow.
Knock it out, because I had to, because I'm working full time during the week. So I had a bunch of, we call them weekend warriors, guys, friends of mine, guys I went to church with, a couple of engineers I worked with even. So, and techs and different people.
Like you said, like you really got to, I don't know. It's like the American dream now to start a business and be an entrepreneur and do all this stuff. And everyone who has a corporate job is like, man, I just want to like work for myself and whatever it is. But no one really tells you the cold hard truth of like really the grind that it's going to take and the toll it's going to take on your mental health and your relationships and the commitment of time and energy and all these things, So even when you decide and you're like, yeah, okay, there's going to be some sacrifice there, I know I underestimated it, and I feel like everybody does. They underestimate like how hard it's going to be, because, you look at someone successful, they don't usually just share all the crappy things about how they got there. It's usually like, here's the 5 steps to get success. And so, oh, that seems fairly easy.
Yeah, it looks good on paper, sounds good, right? And a lot of times entrepreneurs were highly focused people, but then we're not. Like, I call it the pinball machine effect, where people, oh, look, something shiny over here. You go chase that for a while. But that's the other thing. You've got to be focused and kind of know what your goals are and stay there. But the problem with that even that you don't realize with a young family where, you know, one of the kids is always sick, or you got all the school activities or church program, whatever you're involved in. And then your spouse is also doing, and nowadays most spouses work. At that time, you know, my spouse didn't work, but very difficult times if you're not careful. So I would just caution anyone in this business to make sure your spouse is on board and that you both know what you're getting into, and stay focused on one thing and do it extremely well.
Yeah, that's such solid advice. I think about it and I was like, you know, if you would have told me that 15 years ago, I probably just would have not listened, you know, like
Same here. Yeah, it's easier coming from me 30 years later, right?
like, who's this old guy? You know, like, I don't,
Yeah, exactly.
he obviously doesn't know who I am, what I'm capable of, and who's he to put these limitations and whatever. But so I think back, I'm like, man, how can we get into someone just 6 months earlier or 12 months, 18 months earlier? Because a lot of times we do have to go through those hardships to really learn the real lesson, you know?
I had the best advice I ever heard was from my electrician. This guy would pull he taught me how to wire houses too. I got into high voltage stuff thanks to him. But his advice was, actually came from his wife. She goes, "Are you doing it to your family or for your family?" I thought, whoa, that is some of the best advice I have. So if you're out there hitting and you know, getting her done, making all this money, you can have all the money in the world and be the most miserable person in the world. You know, and if you're not careful, you can even end up divorced, you know, through those actions of trying to make money. So keep your priorities in line best you know how.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, you mentioned another thing about staying focused. I look back at my success being a lighting business owner, and I'm like, man, I was kind of lucky in a lot of things. Like, there's a lot of things that went wrong, and I somehow figured out a way to work through it. And there's a lot of stuff that could have gone worse. I'm like, how did I do what I did to get it up to the revenue and to have people in place and all that stuff? Because I did literally a lot of things wrong. Like, I look back, I'm like, yeah, I could have done this better. I should have done this better. I've had time to decompress, and now I've got time to build things that I didn't and stuff like that. But I think, honestly, that one thing of being focused made up for a lot of mistakes and a lot of weaknesses in other areas. Because what I see now as an outsider, a lot of people will be like, oh, I'm gonna get into lighting, or I'm gonna do lighting. And then when it gets slow, they're like, oh, my friend told me that irrigation is really profitable, or someone said I could do some small electrical over here. I could do this, or I could do that. And then they're not focused, where I literally just stayed focused on lighting. So when it was slow or I was having a problem, I just solved the problem. And I had like that bigger, like, I didn't need success in 30 days. I was okay waiting a year, 2, 3, whatever it was. So I think when I look back at it, that was like a true key of success for me, is to stay focused and not get distracted by what the next shiny object could have been. And that's
Right.
one of those things that just kept pushing me through it.
Yeah, and a lot of times we learn those things the hard way, but hopefully your listeners will take some of that advice and go easy on themselves and their families, and try to keep an even, steady pace in what you're doing. Sometimes winning a job isn't sometimes not winning a job is the best thing, and go for the bigger ticket jobs.
It's a long-term game, and it's easy to say that to someone from the outside when you're in it. I mean, I'm dealing with it right now. I launched this new coaching business. I'm 3 years in, and I'm super frustrated because I want to be further along, and I want to be doing this, I want to be doing that. And it's like, I know what I'm capable of, and I'm not there yet. So, you know, inside the business, I'm like, man, I just want to go faster and bigger and better and all that. On the outside, it's like, dude, this is a long-term game. You're only 3 years in. This is a 20-year plan for you. So, like,
Exactly.
dude, just relax. Like, go to dinner with your family. Like, it's okay, you know. So, I learned that the hard way through operating my lighting business.
Right. And it's different. Like, I'm in a different stage in life now because all the kids are grown. They're out of the house. Stacy, my wife, you know, I couldn't do this without her. First of all, she totally gets it. She understands it. She's herself involved in a management role in her job and in a school system. So like tonight, she's got to work till 8:30 with parent teacher conferences and different things going on, that sort of thing. So we play well as a team together, and that's very important. And probably in a few years when she retires from that, she'll jump in the business and we'll grow it even further and faster at that point. But we're in no hurry. That's where we're at. I'm more focused on just getting the quality right and getting the product right, more so than being in a hurry to make a lot of money, because I'm in a different stage. So that helps us, I guess, deliver products that just work.
You said something earlier before we went live. What were you saying about when you stop focusing on the money is when the money starts to come in, something like that?
Yes. The problem is when you get focused on money, you lose focus on what's really important. First of all, people. In my case, I view God as important in my life, and then people, those relationships, and you keep those things in the right order. It just seemed like the money starts coming in. That sounds counterintuitive, like, well, I need to be out there hitting and getting and doing all these different things. But I see this in Matt. Matt works with me as an engineer, as my son, and that's great. And he's learning those same lessons. Unfortunately, because I've kind of been through some of those, that's been a good coaching opportunity as well for him, because we're wired very much alike. That apple didn't fall too far from the tree, So
Yeah.
If I can give back to the younger generation, that would be the advice I would give.
That's cool. I like it. The way I view it is inputs and outputs, and money is an output, and money is a result of an action and input, right? And so for me, it's like, okay, how do I impact the lives of others? I want to help someone. I want to bless the life of someone. Yeah, I'll get paid for it. Like, naturally, as a business owner, you need, like, money should be a component of it somewhere. You need that output, but hopefully it goes deeper than that. Like, what is your why? Why are you doing this? And how are you? Like, I truly believe that lighting will change lives. Like, I've seen it happen, right? And so if I can go and impact one life today, that's all I'm worried about. And if I care about them as a person and helping them make the right decision, then the output will take care of itself. I'll get paid for the lighting job. I'll get paid for the coaching, whatever. I don't really care about the output. If I focus on the inputs, the outputs always take care of themselves.
Yeah, I agree. And the same is true in business and engineering and the things that we do. I know we engineers sometimes get made fun of and all that. That's kind of fun. I'm definitely the Dilbert kid growing up, where I was getting shocked on things. And,
Nice.
my parents finally, decided, well, we better buy him one of those Radio Shack kits. It's all low voltage, so he doesn't kill himself before he turns, 10. So that was kind of my, all the lights went out in the house and my dad yells my name because he already knew I caused it.
Of course. Yeah.
And that literally happened. I killed the main breaker. So that's
awesome.
the Dilbert kid that I was. So you got to harness those energies as parents and get them going the right direction. But that ties into engineering and too. If you design stuff, because when I installed alarm systems, I was into the early stages of home automation, which some of your listeners may be aware of X10 products. Maybe not.
I'm not.
Yeah, that was the original power line carrier home automation, where the signal went over the power lines, and my entire home was automated with that. And I was doing that for people. And one of the manufacturers, I learned not to be an early adopter because I got burned. I was going in people's homes. This is before you could do like over the air updates, and I'd install this high-end alarm system with home automation in it for a customer. And I get an alert from the manufacturer, oh, you need to go out here and change all these ICs. Because back then we had programmable ROMs. I had to go in there and change a chip in their alarm panel, that sort of thing. And so I stopped being the early adopter because I was getting burned. So that taught me that designing a product, it's got to be right the first time out of the box.
Nice.
And I hear horror stories, with other people's, I'm like, what are you people doing? It's like, you got to design it right the first time so that guy that's installing it, it doesn't cost him an arm and a leg later. Because when you roll a truck, 6 months out, first of all, you have to call the customer and say, hey, there's a problem. I got to fix it. Or the customer calls you because they're having an issue. So that's kind of one of the sticklers that we have when we design products here, is make sure when it rolls out, the testing's done.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. So let's transition to the nerdy session of this, because I did promise people that we were going to geek out, that we were going to nerd out. So
Okay.
let's get into the nerdy stuff, because I'm like you. Like when LED first came out, I started my business. It was still halogen, and then LED came out. I was like, let's be the first one. Like we'll be the one of the first ones. I'm sure someone was always fast or whatever, but I was like, we'll be the first one. And I regret that decision because, yeah, we sold a ton of it, but then we spent the next 5 years trying to like service everything and apologize to people and all this stuff. And so that was rough. So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I'd rather like, there's always that race to be first to market, manufacturing, distributing, even installation, all that stuff. So there's always that race, but I'm like, you know what? Let's let everyone work out the kinks. And I want that proven product that's going to work. So I like that you said that. I like that about your products. When did you start Letzgo, and why did you start the company?
Well, the company was started back in '95, actually, in Indiana, when I had my alarm business. If you go to our website, you'll see a product called the Sump Bobber. I was never happy with, and a lot of people live out here in Arizona don't even know what a sump pump is. If you live in the Midwest, everyone's got one in their basement, right? But so as an alarm installer, we would install these sump alarms so that when the power went out and your basement flooded, you would know it, or before, 60 seconds before it flooded, you would know it, that sort of thing.
Wow. Yeah.
So we developed a new float switch system that just was designed to work with alarm panels. Super simple, didn't take up much space, and would work right in there with your sump pump. So that's kind of how the company initially got started into manufacturing. And then I was working other jobs. I worked in Pro Audio, Crown Audio as an engineer. So, and I had been installing audio in people's homes too. So I was with home automation. I was doing the video, audio, the whole 9 yards, central vac, all that. So then I worked in and out of other industries, and then decided I couldn't take corporate anymore. I was just burning out in the corporate structure. Making good money as an engineer, of course, with 20 plus years. But there again, the money's not worth it, right? I mean, I worked for some really cool startups. I've worked on EVs, chargers, battery technology, MRI stuff, all kinds of different cool things. But most of these employers would just work you until there's nothing left of you, I'm like, okay, I'm done. So we started doing consulting under Letzgo and designing products for other people. And that's when I kind of started focusing on health again, taking care of myself, because in engineering, most guys get fat and wear glasses, because you're at a desk all day. And most of the big guys will work you, 60-hour weeks minimum. So then we started doing all that. And then in 2016 was when we first started developing the dimmer. And it took 2 years, 2,000 man hours, which that just blows people. If you understood what that means, that's $250,000 of engineering pay for one product.
Yeah, that's insane.
And most people installing the product don't have a full appreciation for what that means. Many of the manufacturers right now are just bringing stuff in offshore, right? Ask them who their engineer is, and they don't know who their engineer is.
Right. Well, so let's talk about your dimmer. What makes it special? What were those 2,000 engineering hours for? What does it do? And how does it do it?
Thought I could do it in 500 hours. It took Matt and I 2,000. And we were doing trailing edge dimming. Gets rid of the majority of the flicker in LED lamps. Most of the metal faceplate dimmers you can buy, that's a 1970s technology that's based on triax. And you'll burn your hand on the faceplate of it if you pull too much current. You're going to drop 2 volts. Now we're going to geek out here. You're going to drop 2 volts of your voltage to begin with out of the 12. And then at 10 amps, do the math. You're doing Ohm's law here. 2 times 10, that's 20 watts of heat coming out of the front. Try to put your fingers on a 4-watt night light. See what happens. You're gonna leave flash. Okay, we're talking 20 watts on a faceplate. Yeah. Bad idea. So we saw that and we're like, okay, with my background in power electronics, I can easily fix this. Give me 6 months. Well, 2 years later, trailing edge dimming is now there. So that was humbling because I'm like, oh man, this is way harder than I thought, you know. So
And when you say
trailing
trailing
edge,
edge, can you talk about that, how it powers up and everything?
So let me cover leading edge first. Well, I'm going to put this in as simple a terms as I can for anyone. Think of it as a bucket, and an energy bucket or water bucket, however you want to look at it. And you're dumping energy in, but at the same time, that LED is pulling energy out of that bucket. So if you're doing leading edge dimming, you're pulling the energy out of the bucket right away. And the circuit inside the lamp needs some energy to power up. And that's usually 3 to 5 volt circuit. So with leading edge dimming, you're not giving the electronics in the lamp or the bulb, depending on how you believe lighting is called. We'll call it the light source. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's a light source. So if you pull that energy out too quick, the circuit will reset, and that causes your flicker. With trailing edge dimming, you fill the bucket up as you think of it as filling the bucket up first before you pull energy out. That's the absolute minimum way of explaining it, if that helps people.
And so that explains why it takes a half second or whatever to start receiving or till you see the result. Is that right?
In our case, our dimmer, we designed in a soft start feature on purpose. Not so much for that, but just to give it a nice soft, because LEDs, even the one on my camera right now is really irritating because it's the blue light LED, right? Why do people use blue light on cameras? I don't know. I'd like to go dope slap that Dilbert, but anyway, it should be a soft light. So that soft start allows you to come up slow and not just hit the house and everyone around it with that super bright light.
Very cool. I like that. Oh, we got a good one here. I love watching Ryan talk science. This is just my gig. I could just talk about this all day long. So let's talk. So the dimmer's awesome. What do you guys have some like built-in overload blink or something I saw in one of your videos? How does that work?
And this is where it got really complicated designing that product. If you dead short, let's say one of the metal faceplate dimmers, you blow a fuse, right? The fuse is oversized on those. It's 20 amp. It should be 10. But the dimmer is basically a solid state circuit breaker. Extremely hard to do. You have to shut off. If I dead short that dimmer right up close to the dimmer, it still has to work and protect itself, which means you have to shut off the current in 50 millionths of a second. Extremely hard to do. We spent a lot of time in electronic simulation, taking our transistor devices and simulating, and there's a lot of work to get that dialed in. And so now it works, and that was the big accomplishment. And then there were some other really novelty things that I won't even go into because it would just be like really boring. But yeah, so that's the dead short protection. And then on top of it, we added what we call average current protection, so that if an installer uses that product and they put too many lamps on it, it'll blink the lights off and on to let you know you're thermally overloading the dimmer.
Oh, okay. So I think one of the things, there's actually one question that ties into this a little bit. Is there a recommended lamp that will work best with a dimmer? Because there are installers that will like install a system, not understand what like power factor is and some of these things, and then it's flashing at them and they're wondering what's wrong with this dimmer.
We've had this question asked so many times, and we've actually had contractors call us and say this thing's a piece of junk, it doesn't work right. And I said, well, explain to me what you're doing. Well, I got 17 MR16s on this dimmer. I'm like, well, first of all, that doesn't sound right. Sound like you didn't select the right bulb, but that's okay. Or the right lamp. But sometimes customers complain that they don't like the light. So power factor corrected lamps are the key. If you buy even an expensive lamp that's not been properly designed and it has a low power factor, you might only get by with 7 lamps because you're going to hit the peak overcurrent on our product. And that peak overcurrent is there to protect the electronics thermally. So a good power factor corrected lamp, you could maybe run 20. And this guy's like, well, I put my meter on here. I'm only pulling 4 amps. Yeah, that's right. But there's this really high peak current filling the bucket that I talked about earlier. And that's where people don't understand that volt amps, you got to dump a bunch of current in that bucket to begin with to power up the electronics. And that's where the problem becomes. If you buy a lamp that's not been properly designed, I got to be careful. I don't want to step on people's toes here because there's a lot of lamp manufacturers out there. But we kind of put together a white paper. We started testing so many. This is something that caught us by surprise. We started selling the dimmer and we're like, well, LEDs, that shouldn't draw any current, right? That's nothing. You should be able to put a whole bunch of these on there, right?
Yeah.
So that was our mistake. We caught that later and we're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we missed that. We should have seen that, but it kind of depends on which lamps you're testing with. And to be honest with you, we developed everything initially on running halogens on purpose because they have the worst startup currents. And if you can make this dimmer work on a halogen, surely it'll work on an LED. So there was some mistake on our part there in the development process. It's something we learned. So
Interesting.
yeah. So, and then we met Tom at that AOLP conference, and Matt's a go-getter. He goes, I'm going to go over to his booth and grab one of his lamps and plug it in and see what happens. We'll find out if it's any good, that sort of thing, right?
Nice.
We plugged that in and we're like, we'd never seen a lamp dim better. Well, when you look at the VA or the power factor, that's why.
Yeah.
So we went over to Tom at that point and said, hey, we'd like to get with you and show you our dimmer and why yours is the first lamp we had seen that would dim that well. So we've kind of been promoting those products because of that.
That's cool. Well, normally when Tom speaks, he talks about the high power factor and no one really listens. And I'm like, Tom, it's because you're an engineer. Let me say it. So I don't know what it is. People don't like to listen to engineers, but it's so true. And this is a cool example of why power factor matters, because
Right.
It's like, no, it really does matter. And I saw one of your videos, it had, it was 8 4-watt light sources. I don't know which brand they were. And it was like tripping the dimmer. It was like overloading the dimmer. Then you had 20 5-watt Emery Allens MR16s and everything was working fine. And then
Beautiful.
You guys threw another one on there, like a 20 watt or something to get it to trip or whatever. But that's crazy. So on one dimmer, again, this was just one scenario with certain distances or whatever. We were literally over double the number of light sources on there. So that was really cool.
Well, the other thing that the reason we did all that short circuit protection and everything too is you're protecting everything downstream. So if you have a lamp that fails and it shorts or wiring that shorts, you immediately shut off the current to that light source. And we've had contractors yank. We just had one a couple of weeks ago. I think it was through Site 1 where they wanted to return the dimmer. And I'm like, why? We don't get failures. We've had literally, I can count on one hand the 3 dimmers that were returned, and thousands have been sold. We get them back, we test them, they're fine, except for the one where the homeowner hooked it up to 120. That one didn't end so well. We immediately called we found out through Site 1 who the contractor was. We called him and said, okay, explain to us what happened. He said, well, I had these underwater lights fail. So I just pulled everything because I wasn't sure what failed. And your dimmer wouldn't power them up, So the dimmer was fine. We'll use it as a demo. We'll give it away to someone at some point. 6 months old. It was installed in Florida, but that's a tchotchke for someone. We'll give it to one of your listeners today if they want it. How's that?
Nice. Well, and someone was, I guess they were asking because they tried, it says just use the dimmer for the first time. Doesn't full range dim on Brilliance Premium. So, I mean, it's a good point. Like you're using the dimmer with someone else's product. So you're going to have different results based on what you're dimming.
Yeah. We've tested a whole bunch of different lamps, and I would recommend it for that person to try one of the Emery Allen lamps and see what kind of result you get. Not every lamp is created equal. And a lot of the drivers, you could build a product here in the States with with a driver that comes offshore, obviously, or you can build the whole product offshore. We've seen just about, and we've tore down a lot of the lamps. We thought about going into the lamp business, and we decided, nah, that's not our.
Whoa, where did Dan go? What's going on? This is a problem because we're talking nerdy lighting stuff, and now I'm supposed to just cover. So here's what we're gonna do. While Dan figures out, I mean, he's an engineer. He's got this, right? Well, he figures out how to get back on. I'm gonna do the gift card giveaway because that's what I was gonna ask about anyway. You guys ready? If you're here live. Gift card giveaway. All right, guys, I'm losing my voice. I've been losing it the last few days, trying to struggle through this show. But here's the deal. If you're the first person to answer this correctly, you will win gift card giveaway. And I knew Dan could do it. I mean, after all, we've talked about him being an engineer. He's back. What's up, Dan?
I don't know what happened.
I decided to do the gift card giveaway. So we're going to do the gift card giveaway right now. Are you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys are here live, you just have to be the first person to answer this correctly, and I'm going to hook you up with a gift card. You can go buy whatever you want. You want to put that money toward a new dimmer or the next product we're going to talk about, because right after this, we're going to talk about another really, really cool product that they recently came out with. But here's the question. So we're talking about power factor. Understanding and calculating your wattage, or VA, that Dan mentioned. VA is very, very important. It's also important to understand the relationship between theory and practice. Okay, so I learned this from the AOLP, studying for their CLVLT. And the AOLP teaches of 3 types of wattage: nominal, effective, and dynamic. So we're only going to talk about 2 today, but let's take a scenario of a system with nominal wattage of 450 watts. Okay, so let's say that's 45 light sources at 10 VA each, right? VA is really what we want to use for the most part. So 45 light sources, 10 VA each, 450, right? So if the nominal wattage of a system is 450 watts, you're going to have to get super geeky with me here, guys. Stay with me on this, right? You might have to write down what we're talking here. The nominal wattage is 450 watts, which happens to be 37.5 amps. Now, the reason I know that is because of Ohm's law. I did 450 watts divided by 12 volts. That gave me 37.5 amps. Dan, am I making any sense so far?
Yeah.
More or less. Okay, just
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we're at that, right? So the question is, what is the effective wattage of the same system when wired into the 15-volt tap instead of the 12-volt tap? And we lost it. Dan's like, I'm out of here. This guy doesn't know how to talk, nerd talk. He doesn't know how to talk tech. So what's the effective wattage of the same system when wired into the 15-volt tap? Are you there, Dan?
I don't know why that camera's dropping out.
Okay. But the question is, what is the effective wattage of the same system when wired into the 15-volt tap? So the nominal wattage on paper was 450 watts. You divide that by 12 volts, you get 37.5 amps. But since we're using the 15-volt tap, what is the effective wattage of that exact same system? So we'll let everyone chime in. And I don't know how many people are going to answer this one, because I don't think, if I would have wrote the question, I'm not sure I would have been able to answer it off the cuff.
That's a tough one. Yeah. And then it changes with dimming. That's the other thing that people don't realize. When you dim a lamp, the power factor actually changes on it, depending on the lamp, the ones we've tested. Yeah,
that's a good point. Because when you're dimming, let's say we start at the 15-volt tap. When you're dimming, are you effectively dimming it less than the 15, or how does that work?
No, it's not that. It has to do more with the current and the phase of the current as it ramps up. It's one of those things you almost have to simulate or look at it on an oscilloscope to see it.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is. So this is perfect because we're trying to keep this super
That's the
nerdy.
oscilloscope right there.
Okay, that's awesome. Okay, we got some guesses coming in. If you guys will write your name in here, I'll tell you who the winner is, and then you can write your name of depending on who wrote it. So we got 30 amps. We're not asking for amps. We're asking for the effective wattage. And I didn't even calculate the amps, but 30 amps. You're over my head. But we actually have a winner. Somebody got it right. 562.5 watts. So I don't know who that is. I can look up later. But just to be safe, if this was you, comment who it was. Is that Brian? I think it might be Brian. If that's who, it's the lizard, the lighting lizard. So how did he come up with that? Well, basically, we had the 37.5 amps from before. We times that by the new voltage, which is 15 volts instead of 12, and we end up with 562.5. So the reason why I went over this is because just like Dan shared, you shared an example earlier of someone having an issue. People have issues with their installs because on paper it makes sense. It's like, well, I've got, I've got, what did I say, 45 light sources, 10 VA, that's 450. I'm good to go. I put that on a 600 watt transformer. We're rocking and rolling, right? But now when you put it on the 15 volt tap, your effective wattage jumps from 450 to 562, which is still going to work on a 600 watt transformer. It doesn't really account for the 80% rule and keep your electronics cool and all that, but it would turn on. The problem is later on when you go, oh, well, yeah, let's add 10 more lights, and you don't really keep track of all this stuff. Now you're over and it starts tripping and you can't figure out what's going on. So congratulations, Brian. Way to nerd out, way to geek out with us and qualify for the lighting nerd of the day, man. Good job, buddy. We will hook you up. He's already won, like, I think 3 of these. This might be number 4 or something like that. All right. So that was good. Way to go, Brian. I wanted to talk about
that's a tough question, right? I mean, that's a really good question.
Yeah, I was kind of holding back. I was like, I wanted to ask it, but I wanted to make sure it was on the appropriate. If we were talking business and all that stuff, I was like, so that doesn't apply. But this makes sense, and it ties into stuff you're talking about and all these other things. So, how would a dimmer impact this scenario?
Well, it's affecting how, and this is the difference between trailing and leading edge too. It affects how the current fills up that bucket that I talked about earlier, that energy bucket. And so the drivers, there's like 3 different drivers that are used when I should quantify that. A driver is a circuit that runs the constant current through the LED. If you didn't run a constant current through the LED, your color rendering index, everything gets messed up, right? So that's how the dimmer affects it, is by changing what we call firing angle on in the sine wave where you turn that light off and on, and it gets very complicated really quick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So let's talk about your new controller. It's a zone controller, but it's got some really cool features on it. Or is there anything else we got to talk about the dimmer?
I think we kind of geeked out. Well, the main thing with our dimmers, it runs cool and it's completely potted. So installing it anywhere near salt water and all that, you're good to go. If you want to run underwater, yeah, you could run. Actually, technically, it's probably IP60. You could probably put it underwater and run it. We don't recommend doing that, but if your sprinklers are hitting it, or if you want to put it in an irrigation box to light a tree or something, it's going to hold up. Okay, cool. So let's talk about the new zone controller. I like that it's compatible with some of the brand name home automation controllers. What does that mean for the landscape lighting designer, installer? Like, what does this allow us to do now? It's kind of an agnostic design in terms of what you can connect it to. A lot of people have asked us, so why doesn't your dimmer have Bluetooth? Why doesn't your dimmer have, and same thing now with the zone controller. We've developed a product in the past where you had to do app support. And what we learned was anytime you're asking the customer as an installer to mess with their Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff, you tend to open a can of worms if you're not careful. And we watched some of the Facebook posts on some of the guys dealing with this, and it's troublesome. So we tried to design something that would work with what you already have. So most people have some level of home automation, and a lot of people have sprinkler systems. You mentioned sprinklers earlier. And most of those sprinkler systems are already connected to Wi-Fi, the newer ones. So we designed it to work. You could do all your timing on off with your sprinkler controller if you wanted to. You could use a relay output on any home automation controller. Any home automation controller has relay outputs. So I think we just answered that question.
Yeah.
Most people under home automation are thinking about, well, what API am I going to connect to, and all these different things, right? We have a simple 2-wire interface, optically coupled, so you don't have any ground issues. So now you just need a relay or a voltage source. It's essentially, 5 volts to 24 volts AC or DC, and you're going to be able to control that zone. And then there's tons of features built into each zone. So it's like 3 dimmers in a box, but on steroids now.
That's so cool. I like the concept of apps and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. Like, of course, it's awesome. It's sexy. People love it, but I hate that it never works. So I do love the fact that yours is so simple. You can break it apart. You can have zones, and then I like that it connects with other things. And the example that I saw you guys demonstrating, which was so cool, I think, is just like a driveway sensor. So someone pulls up, let's say they've got their lights set because they're using your zone controller and dimmer and all this stuff. They got the lights set to be full brightness until, 11 o'clock at night. And then they dim down to 50% brightness or 20% around the front gate or whatever the scenario is. But then when that car drives up, hits the sensor, kicks the lights on for, a minute, 5 minutes, whatever you set it for, to full brightness again. I mean, that's so awesome. And it's simple. I mean, there's technology there, but you guys have simplified it in a way to make it, there's no user error now.
Right. We still have it's interesting. It's been very difficult to get this into the contractor's hands. A lot of them are afraid of it. They think it's too high tech. But once you get it and you realize it's really not that high tech, we've had some guys come back and say, well, why don't you just make me one box that just does that one thing? We're like, well, okay, it was $250,000 of investment to do a dimmer. How much do you think it costs to develop this product?
Oh my gosh, Dan, where are you? It looks weird. See, when my face gets cut in half. Dan, how am I supposed to talk about a zone controller without Dan, you guys?
There we go. That's weird. Well, it's nerd day, right? You said we're going to geek out. So there you go. Someone's hacking my IP address right now. But anyway, so that's the sort of thing that educate yourself on the product. Watch our YouTube videos if you do want to use it. Most contractors that want to reach out to us, if you go through our website contact form, I generally call people back as fast as possible. I'll make sure we take care of you if you want to try that out and try something that, try it on your own home. That sort of thing.
Is it letsgoproducts.com? What's the
Yeah, letsgoproducts.com. We have a contact information form on there if you want to experiment. We have a loaner unit too that we it's been all over the country. We'll send it out, let a contractor try it, and then they ship it back. We give you like 2 weeks to 30 days to play with it, that sort of thing.
Just buy one, test it on your own house.
There you go.
You're gonna fall in love with it. Don't get the trial thing. So my question, because I have not used it, it does 3 zones. Is that right? That's
correct. You get 3. It's like you're getting 3 dimmers. Here's the backside. It's completely potted again.
And then can you have multiple of those on a transformer or one per transformer?
No, you can tie all the power lines together and connect them to one transformer. And we designed it to you could parallel a bunch of the power inputs, or you can isolate them on different transformers. Let's say you have one in the front yard, one in the backyard. You can run 2 transformers into here. It doesn't matter. Each zone is independently isolated from the other galvanically. And then,
cool.
Yeah, it's really, and we got rid of all the ground loop issues if you're tying it into home automation. So you're not dealing with any of that. And same thing with your sprinkler system. If you wanted to control lights on off with a sprinkler, some guys would be like, well, you can't do that. Sprinklers have a 1 minute timer, right? Minimum. But we set it up for that on purpose. You pulse it on for 1 minute and it turns your lights on, whatever dim level you have preset. You pulse it again later, hours later, and it shuts it off, that sort of thing. So, and a lot of that stuff came from my home automation days. The driveway sensor, we used to install those.
Okay, cool. And then, so, and just to clarify, you guys don't sell the driveway sensors. That's another brand. Same with like motion sensors. But if
Correct.
someone grabs a motion sensor and says, all right, when someone goes by this motion sensor, I want it to kick on these lights. That's exactly what this product's for.
Yeah, you need to put a voltage to the input, the control input on that zone where 12 volt AC will work. It's really interesting. And then we've also developed a mode, if you're doing a large restaurant venue where you want to dim all the lights together, you can buy 10 of those boxes and use one master control knob, which we're getting close to releasing. That master control knob then will allow you to dim 3,600 watts of light with one knob.
What's a scenario where they'd want to do it all together instead of having just individual control?
Well, this came about. We had a contractor send us a picture. He had 8 of our dimmers on a wall at a restaurant on the outside because, during COVID, all that outside eating became a really big deal, which made his business boom. And he was hanging like bistro lights and all that around the eating areas. And he's like, the dimmers are around the corner and we're trying to get them all set at the exact same level. So, that's very subjective, right? So we thought, we can solve that with our zone controller.
Nice. Okay. And then, if you're at a residential where you want, to have control over the bistro lights or maybe the front entry or the backyard lights or something like that. That's the biggest thing is it's not individual dimming per fixture unless that's how you got it wired. It's per zone.
Right. And you could use 2 zones with one master control knob, dim those together, or we're actually working on another interface for the people who really want to use an app. Here's the thing we learned. If you're going to pair with an app, you better make sure you're not doing the app support as a company, a small company anyway. It takes, because we developed another product with apps, you have to have a full-time engineer to support the app development, or you got to rely on a full-time engineer somewhere else, India or wherever, to support your app, and you're going to be paying for that.
Yeah, I think it's good to bring up because there are some people that want dimming capabilities, zoning on the app. That's not what this is.
It can be though. We're working on a board that allows you to use like a Philips Hue or the Wiz that would then, if you want to use those products, those apps are at least supported by a large company who's going to make sure that they continue to have support.
Okay.
I get concerned about some of the Chinese companies doing apps because you don't know if they're going to be here tomorrow. I see people doing that. I'm like,
Yeah, didn't that happen like in the last 6 months or something like that, where a company went out of business? And I thought there was a major snafu with that. I can't remember what company it was.
And then if you're supporting apps, you're chasing the phone industry all the time as well. Every time Apple does an update or something, you may have to tweak the app and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, and then people can't remember their password, and then they don't have any control. So yeah,
we're also working on an RF remote for those guys who used to install. I don't remember the name of the company. There was the 3-channel zone controller at one point.
I know what it is. ABC.
It had a bad name, I guess, or someone didn't. I don't know. So we've got an RF remote that basically allows you that we're working on that will allow you to replace those systems, but now have all the solid state controls.
Yeah, we installed a bunch of those, and it was like you had to be MacGyver to figure out how to like wire it up. And then when it didn't work, you had to undo it all and then redo it and then troubleshoot. It was a problem, but when it did work, it was awesome. So that's the thing about technology. It can be a blessing and a curse all at the same time.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, I'm excited. So we got the dimmer and you got the zone controller. That's out. You're going to come out with the master knob soon, and then compatibility with whatever app they want to use at some point as well.
Well, just right now we're focused on the Philips brand
Okay.
for the app. But if you've already got a home automation system, any of them out there, most of them offer a relay option of some sort, or you could turn on any small wall wart transformer with any of the smart plugs that are out there today and run this as well.
Well, that's a good point. If they're using Control 4 or another, Lutron or whatever like that, then they can just dim with their own app that they're already using.
Right. If you follow our instructions on the YouTube videos, you'll see we have a mode that allows you to control the percent duty cycle of the lamps by how long you leave that relay off or on.
Cool. I love it. Well, Dan, I really appreciate you coming on here, man. If you guys want to get with Dan, just go to letsgoproducts.com, reach out to him. I mean, he said he'll do the loaner thing, but just buy one, you guys. Support local small businesses, help them out. Just buy one, use it in your own house, test it. You're going to fall in love with it anyway. Pair it with the Emery Allen lamps, and you're going to be good to go. So Thanks for coming on here, Dan. I really appreciate you.
Great being here. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, you have an awesome week. We'll see you next one. Don't forget to keep moving forward.